Hello. I just wanted to come on. I've been thinking about different things with YouTube and the reason why I'm doing this and all of that. And basically, when I started out, I wanted to make my YouTube channel in order to expose the corruption of what's going on, because when this happened to me and my family, it was devastating, and it has been devastating. And then from there, I wanted to just show my journey of what it looks like when a person begins to question things, and to learn that pretty much everything that we've ever been taught from this world, the system that's in place, has been a lie, and that we need to question everything. And so there's a lot of videos there where I am talking about me coming out of Christianity, a man-made religion, and trying to understand this world and who I am and who the divine creator is from a spiritual standpoint. I remember my uncle back before the second allegation came around, and CPS came back to attack our family, and he was questioning, just tell me what you believe in, and like, are you Seventh-day Adventist? If you just tell me what group you're a part of, then I can understand where you're coming from. And what I was trying to say is that I was trying to go back to the ancient path and to understand who I am, not with labels or anything like that, but as a spiritual individual, just like we all are. And he just couldn't accept that. He continued to attack me and become defensive, and I was put in a position where I was having to try to defend myself and what my beliefs or my questioning of beliefs was at that time. And I think that that still continues today as we are trying to figure out what's going on. When I started to read the scriptures using a different understanding, as I was looking at it and trying to understand who the scriptures was actually talking about, and I learned that the description is of so-called blacks. If you're actually reading it in a literal sense and reading through it and the history and all of that, and you start to then I'll just speak for myself. When I started to do this, when I was being taught by individuals who were also trying to find out who they are and what their identity is, not in the sense of having labels from others, but at a spiritual level. And when I was learning from that, and I was seeing that, yes, the description actually fit so-called blacks, and then I was looked at like Revelations 2:9 and 3:9, that the people right now who occupy the land that they say is Jerusalem or Yasharel, that they are the false people, and they are running around and claiming to be the people. And then from there, there's been questions about what parts of the scriptures are actually true and what parts are not true, and if any of it, and how do we actually read the scriptures, and then to look at all the ancient texts that are around. Is the scriptures something that trumps everything, or are all these ancient books one of the same thing, talking about something much deeper about who we are spiritually and who the creator is, and has that been kept from us, and has there been a conquering and a dividing like tactics that are in place that have been used throughout time? They're tested, tried, and perfected in order to divide people. on as many different levels as possible, whether it's our skin color, whether it's our, if we're male, well, I don't want to use male or female because that's an agricultural term. You have all this legalese on top of everything that they come in. If you say I'm a person or I'm a man or a woman, I mean, there's so much deception out there. It gets very frustrating when you go down the rabbit hole. But I want to bring those things up because they matter. When you're in this walk, when, you know, you're brought into these corrupt courts and stuff like that, if you don't have that knowledge, then basically you see what's happened to my life. That's what ends up happening, is that you are taken as a victim, and that's how you're used and abused, and you're not treated as a human being, a man or a woman, for in my case a woman, and your offspring, and you know, you're not supposed to use the word children. They are seen as the property of the state, because as a mother, we end up being deceived to sign the certificate of live birth when our offspring, our blessings, are born. And if you look on these certificates of live birth, the mother is put down as the informant, which is someone who is giving their blessing away. That is how deceptive they are in their paperwork and what they do. They call the mother the informant, and then that actually, if you look into the legal terms of all that, you are actually unknowingly giving your offspring away to the state, the government. And that is why you see in different places people saying the children are owned by the state and the governments and stuff like that. Now, there's a difference between having standing as a woman or a man and having your offspring or your children, because they divide these two out, and there's a fictional world and a non-fiction. And what this comes down to is corporations taking over, and a whole bunch of deception being used. There's no informed consent. I wasn't given full disclosure of any of this, because deception has been used, and these courts are operating in the private. They're private business associations, and so the judges are not judges or anything like that. They're actually operating in their private capacities, and you know, all their paperwork and everything, there's no due process. These are not true courts of record. You know, of course they're going to tell you that. Of course their indoctrination programs are going to be teaching this, because it benefits those who are in seats of power right now. And we have been dumbed down for too long, and everything has come, all the chemicals, all the fluoride, and all of these things in our food, water, and air, in products that we use, are being used to just keep us in a place of being sedated, basically. That we are passive and we are asleep to all of this. But there are people waking up today, but there's a huge amount of people that aren't. And that's what I wanted to come on here about, is that when I make my YouTube videos, I'm not trying to, at this point, just reach anyone and everyone and just make a ton of money or anything like that. I am telling my story so that I can help those who are going through this, that I can also process all of this myself, and to just put it out there, because I think that we need to have a voice. My voice has been silenced since I was young, and so I'm just going to speak. And if I'm just speaking to myself, then that's okay. But I want to get my voice out there, and to just open up and to expose, but also to look for solutions and how to go about this and how to come together, and to no longer allow these conquering and dividing techniques to keep people separated and from being able to have that power that unity brings. And I don't mean to say that there's no integrity involved, that, you know, you just accept everything, and there's you know, there's definitely a place where we have to make sure that we are standing in a place where we feel good about what we're doing and stuff like that. So there's I'm trying to think of the word right now, but you don't have to agree with everything that everyone does, but when people come together to try to end corruption, that's a good thing. And when we start to understand the way that the world works and operates, that's a good thing. So I'm just going to stop and go back to the scriptures for a second to say that, so what I've been doing in all of this is, yes, the description fits so-called blacks. How much of the scriptures has been corrupted, and how has this corruption been used to keep us asleep and deceived to who we actually are and what is going on and how things are going to end. So I mean, that's, I think, what's important. And I think we do need to question when individuals or groups out there think they have it all figured out. I think that that is a problem, because we know that the deception goes very deep, and the rabbit hole goes very deep. And so I think that keeping an open mind and continuing to question and to be able to listen to that still small voice is important, to be able to fine tune that, to take the time to silence everything else, and to really look within ourselves, because we have power within us. The divine creator, I believe, is in all people, but there's a lot of other stuff going on in the spiritual realm that we don't understand. And maybe I won't ever get to that point where I fully understand it. But I just wanted to say kind of where I've come, and that's what my videos have been talking about, is that now I'm questioning more and more, and I don't have it all figured out. But I do know that there's a ton of people out there who don't know who they truly are, their true identity. And there's been a systematic oppression, a system put in place to really keep people down in certain groups, and then this other group over here. Throughout time, all these different things have happened, these genocides, and they have basically used people as their pawns to carry out their agendas that are not for the good of humanity. You know, I think that today, with everything that's going on with, like in my situation with CPS and these ABC alphabet soup corporations coming in and really operating under deception, and you're seeing the police and the military and all of these individuals, you don't understand and see how the world is operating adversarial and in a way that is really trying to keep people from having any type of rights. I mean, the ordinances, the statutes, the codes, the policies and procedures, and when it comes down to these corporations, these private business associations, they are following their bylaws. That is what it comes down to. And of course, like I said before, people in seats of power who own these programs, these indoctrination programs and stuff like that, they are going to be pouring all of this information into people as if it were true. Okay, so what I was saying is that my phone kind of cut off, so I'm I'm coming back on, is that these indoctrination programs are going to be teaching people what they want them to believe. And so if you tell a lie often enough, and it doesn't matter how big it is, but if you tell it often enough, the people are going to believe it. And one of the biggest things is if you make the people believe that you are helping the children, right? Our offspring, our blessings. If you make them believe that that is what you are doing, so you use your smooth words, and English is very deceptive. That's why it was created. Okay, that's why kids have spelling class and we have cursive and different things like that. But that is why they use words outside of everyday meaning, and then they trap people by this legalese. But if you make them believe that you are out to serve and protect and for the safety and protection of children, then people are going to want whatever that you are offering, believing that you are actually doing what you say, when history shows otherwise. When you look at what's going on in the world around and you see that there is so much trauma, so much sadness, so much that's happening to individuals to take things from them, whether it be their loved ones or their other property like their houses, their land, their vehicles. I mean, throwing them into these privately owned prisons that have contracts to be filled up 100%. And who owns all these and what is actually going on with that? I mean, if you really dig deep into what is going on, you will start to see that they are not there for the best interest of individuals. They are following their bylaws, and it is a business. It is making money, and that is what it ends up being about. And people who are ignorant to this get used as pawns in order to carry out these very, very damaging activities, these criminal acts against humanity. So, I mean, it is just amazing, and it's disgusting to see where the world is today, with people continuing to violate other individuals because they're following orders, because they're just doing their jobs, and they truly trust in whoever it is that they're working for and the mission statements that they have put forth, that is what's going on. But unfortunately, they're not stepping back and looking at the big picture as to what's going on. They'll see maybe one true case of abuse or neglect that is going on, or individuals who are out there who are not thinking right. These police are having to deal with individuals who are in a very bad place and making bad decisions, and they're actually doing something that's wrong. And but the problem is that people are not looking at the bigger picture as to what is going on and why this is happening. And then the so-called justice system, which is nothing like what we see or they present on TV, or what we just thought it was. Justice is justice. We don't really look into it until we actually step foot into these kangaroo courts, and we see that, especially, I'll just talk about CPS. You go in, and because you don't know it's a private business association, you don't realize that this so-called judge, which is just an ministerial clerk, works for CPS, and so they are not able to actually make any type of true judgments. They come out with these summary judgments and stuff, which are completely unlawful. That's what they say they are. And they're just taking parents down a very, very bad trail that does not empower anyone. And that is what's going on. The parent does not get a chance to speak, and even when trials happen, whether it's in these so-called criminal courts or CPS, so-called family courts, the juries are tainted, if there is a jury, and the prosecutor is running the entire thing, and it is not in any way a true court of record. There's no justice that is taking place, and money is being robbed from the people because they don't understand that it is their, when they were given away at birth, that actual name, which does not describe who we are, okay, the name has been taken, it's been used in order to enslave people, and it goes very deep. And then if you start talking about it, then then terms like straw man or different things like that get into this, do not talk about that, oh, you're talking about that type of stuff. And it, instead of it being about what the actual system is doing to deceive people, then people get caught up on words and on individuals going down this path, when in actuality people are just trying to teach what's going on. But every step of the way, when you do this, people become silenced or criminalized or anything like that. That is just the way of the system. The COINTELPRO system goes out and infiltrates, and also then tries to attack the person, and to falsify records, to make things up, to try to discredit people in any way that they can. And then terms become, something that you want to stay away from. And then, they change the language and try to, people who are trying to wake people up to this, they change it so that they can continue to expose the corruption. And then that language is then attacked, and it continues until people say no more. I mean, this is ridiculous. What it comes down to is that our children, our offspring are being used, our elderly parents, and then us, the parents who are going through this, being pushed services and all these different things, going through these so-called courts. They're opening and closing at the end of the day so that they can collect money off of what we have that was invested when we were born or when they registered us. And that's what they're going in, and they are taking from our accounts that we have not claimed. And that's because we have been completely deceived, and we don't realize that this is going on. So what I wanted to say, in a roundabout way, trying to just get through all of that, is that today I'm looking at my life kind of in a way of being kind of like in Narnia. The movie where the youngest, wanted to be like the eldest, her sister, and she basically thought and wanted, to just erase herself. She wasn't really wanting to erase herself, but that's what ended up happening, is that she was taken out because she didn't see her own value. And what's going on in what I see in parents who are having this done to them is that they are being erased and taken out of their children's lives. And in some cases like mine, my older children, I hate using that word just because of how they do the legalese, but my blessings don't see or understand what's going on in the world, and they have a hard time, along with all of my family members, seeing the actual corruption. And because they're not working together with so many other families who are going through this, their view of things are very limited, and so it makes it look as though, yes, the system's working and operating great, and that all these other people have problems, and it is the individual. And like I've said before, I'm not a perfect person, but I have, for anything I've done in my life, you know, I've come to a place where I have tried to evaluate myself and tried to better myself in some way, said I'm sorry where I've been wrong, and to be a better person or woman. And it's difficult because the system does brainwash individuals, and it's hard to, I've been trying to not say fight for, but I mean, this is like a spiritual battle, but to trying to figure out a way to say it in a way that is more like, I'm no longer a victim. I am standing up. I'm standing to confront this head on, to be able to say, no, this isn't okay, and I do have a voice, to empower myself and others to walk forward and to share your stories, because like my life today, all the things that we've come out of, like I don't celebrate the holidays. I do not, everything in the system I try to step outside of as much as possible. And when I learn about the origins of things and where they came from, and if that does not set well with me, then I'm not going to be a part of it. So everything that I've tried to do in order to live a more spiritual life it's like the world brings that back in and tries to attack in a different way. And so today, all of my offspring are celebrating this holiday with their family who believe in the same way as they do, or are living in that same way. And it makes it difficult because it's like my voice, who I am, what I want for my children and all that has been silenced, and it's been completely taken away. And that is something that's interesting, the erasing of parents, and just feeling like others feel like they know better for your children. And that I remember hearing, the children should be here in this town, this is where they belong, and me thinking, that's just crazy. Children belong with their parents. That's where they belong. And you know, I'm not talking about children who are being actually neglected and abused and whatever, and the parent just doesn't see it and doesn't want to work. No, I'm talking about kids who are loved, and all the love that's been put into them. It's like